Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a pretty wild interpretation from the Book of Revelation. We're going to look at how two sacred objects aren't just quiet symbols, but are actually presented as the very things that kickstart the end of the world. Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we'll get to know the key symbols here. Then we'll look at the shocking request these prayers actually contain. After that, we'll see how all this comes together to trigger a cosmic chain reaction. Follow that sequence all the way from prayer to plague, and finally, find out what the ultimate purpose of all this is supposed to be. All right, first things first. Let's talk about the two key items at the absolute heart of this interpretation. You could call it the sacred hardware of the apocalypse. This whole cosmic drama really boils down to the very distinct roles of the golden bowl and the golden censer. Now, they might sound kind of similar, but according to the text, what's inside them, totally different worlds. So first up, you've got the golden bowl. According to the source, its one and only job is to collect and hold something incredibly important, the prayers of the faithful. Think of it as this sacred container for every single plea and cry of the believers. And then you have its counterpart, the golden censer. This one's holding something way more intense. Holy fire, taken straight from the altar. And in this context, that fire is tied to two huge ideas. Atonement, making things right, but also, and this is crucial, divine judgment. Okay, but this is where the story really takes a turn, because it's not really about the bowls or the censers themselves. It's about the nature of these prayers. And honestly, it is probably not what you're thinking. So take a guess. What would you expect these prayers to be about? Peace, maybe? Forgiveness for their enemies? Well, the source material here asks us to just throw those common assumptions right out the window. It's not what you think. And here it is, the core argument. These are not quiet prayers for mercy. No, these are powerful, relentless demands for cosmic justice. They're calling for a final reckoning against all sin, with God's law as the one and only standard. But who gets to make a demand like that? I mean, that's a pretty big ask. Well, according to this text, it's a very specific group, the martyr witnesses. These are the ones who upheld the commandments, even when it cost them their lives. Their sacrifice is presented as the ultimate proof that God's law can be kept, which gives them this unique moral standing to call for a final cleanup of creation. So we have these incredibly intense prayers. How do they actually light the fuse? This is where our two objects, the bowl and the censer, come together to, pull the cosmic trigger. This source presents this almost like a sacred formula, a kind of chemical reaction. You take the prayers demanding judgment from the bowl, you add the fire representing divine justice from the censer, and boom. This creates this incredibly potent offering that God accepts, and that's the signal. It's go time. And this isn't just symbolic, it is the direct trigger. The prayers and fire are offered up, and in response, that very same censer is filled with altar fire and is just hurled down to earth. The effect is immediate and catastrophic. This act is the point of no return. The final judgments have officially begun. And that single act sets off a very precise chain reaction of cosmic events. This isn't chaos breaking loose. It's presented as a meticulously ordered process. So the key thing to see here is the progression. It starts with this moment of intense, silent offering. Then, with each trumpet blast, the pressure just builds. The heavens are literally filling with the smoke of these prayers. The seventh trumpet is the final signal. That's when the great day of atonement, the final reckoning begins. The martyrs are resurrected, and the 7 plagues are unleashed upon the world. And here, the source makes this stunning connection. The very same golden bowls that once held the saints' prayers asking for judgment are then filled with God's wrath. The prayers have been answered, and the vessels that carried the request now deliver the response. But according to this interpretation, all of this destruction isn't the end goal. All this fire and fury, it serves an ultimate purpose, a complete two-phase cleansing of all creation. So the process is laid out in 2 distinct phases. First, while the plagues are falling on earth, the heavenly sanctuary itself is being cleansed. It's only once heaven is purified that the second phase can begin, the final cleansing of the earthly realm, what the text calls Hades, through a direct and final judgment. So why this order? Why heaven first? According to the source, the resurrection of the martyrs is the ultimate proof of God's justice. This event, it's argued, resolves any lingering doubt among the angelic beings, perfecting their free will and forever removing the possibility of another rebellion in heaven. The heavenly realm has to be made eternally secure before the final cleanup of earth can begin.
The end result of this entire dramatic sequence is a creation that has been fully purged of sin and rebellion. With the source of corruption bound, the stage is finally set for a new heaven and a new earth, a complete cosmic reset. And that brings us to our final thought-provoking question. Based on this interpretation, if prayer isn't just a quiet request, but a powerful demand for justice that can move heaven and earth, what does that say about the true power we might hold?